Hi, if you're watching this video, you like to go fishing. Do you have too many rods and reels? Depending on how you answer that question, whether it's yes or no, I don't have enough, this video is definitely for you. Welcome back to Shop Talk, everybody. I'm Noah. This is Madison Angling. Welcome back to another video talking about fishing stuff. We're not actually in the boat. We're just talking fishing stuff. So today we are talking about rod and reel storage, something that a lot of people don't really think about and don't realize is a problem until it becomes a problem. Somebody like me who probably owns over 300 rods and reels between open water and ice fishing, I have a lot of stuff. So I also have a very average garage. I have a 2-car garage. I don't have a big shop. That'll be hopefully a couple years down the road here, bigger house, bigger shop, but I have a limited space. I have a ton of rods and reels, and I need to keep my stuff as organized as possible, especially because I guide for everything, right? Pike, muskies, walleye, panfish, everything. I have lots of different gear, trolling, casting, jigging, rigging, you name it. So for me, it is a little bit of a challenge to keep things organized and stored properly and taking care of my rods and reels. So I'm going to show you the 3 different ways that I like to store my rods and reels that works well for me and maybe could work well for you guys too. Everybody's storage situation is different. Everybody's rod and reel situation is different. But this is how I store my crap. So here we go. Let's dive into it. All right. So ignore my crusty, gross door. This house is a work in progress, but this is option number 1, guys. Probably one of the more relatable ways you can store rods, and that is vertically on a wall. So I actually made this little rod rack thing. I've got another smaller one over here. I actually made this when I was in college. Super, super simple. So I made this out of red oak. You could use whatever you want. You could use basswood, poplar, knotty pine. If you want to get real bougie, you can get some barn board or pallet boards, whatever. Basically just a straight up already milled finished piece of wood from Menards. And like I said, I just did red oak, 1 coat of like a matte polyurethane over it. And I got these guys, these little rubber rod holder things. It's like a little clampy boy that holds your rods. I've noticed they don't usually work super great straight vertical like that. There's a lot of wiggle. So I kind of turn mine a little bit, kind of locks the rod in there a little bit better. I will try to find a link to these. The last time I looked, they were kind of difficult to find, but I will do what I can to find those for you guys. So pretty simple. Probably every 5 inches or so, you screw in one of these little dudes. I have it fastened, obviously, to the wall with studs. And the bottom, it's fall, guys. There's all kinds of junk and stuff in the garage, so please forgive me. But down on the bottom here, we've got, actually, here's a great example. Here's a rod I don't use very much. Doing a lot of home updates, using the miter saw, getting dust on stuff. But basically an 1.25 inch drill bit, basically like a spade bit that you can just sort of countersink into the bottom piece here. Rod butts sit in there, and you want to space these obviously the same as your top little rubber jaws here. So I actually started with the bottom, figured out about how far I wanted them apart, then lined up the top and installed my little rubber dudes. So that is a super awesome way to store a bunch of rods, or you can just shove them in the corner like I've got my catfish rods over there. But this is a super simple, easy way anybody can store rods. You could, of course, modify this slightly. You could drill all the way through this piece and mount it horizontal. So you could run rods the other way. For me personally, I think organizing them going vertical is an easier, a little bit better option. So that is rod storage method number 1. So for rod storage method number 2, we are looking up at the ceiling here. So I've got my longer rods. So I've got my musky casting rods. I've got some salmon rods. I've got some musky trolling rods. All kinds of fun stuff. I even got a 10-weight fly rod over here. I have these guys all up on my ceiling here. Stuff that's kind of a pain in the butt to store anywhere else. Stuff that's too tall to put up against a wall here, an 8-foot ceiling. So basically anything that's over 8 foot, I hang on the ceiling here. So the way that I did that, again, this is a bi-level house, so there's actually a bedroom right above us here. So there are floor joists that run above the ceiling here. So because of the direction of those floor joists, I wasn't able to find one that runs the width of the garage here, the length of the garage. So because they run basically this way, you know, every whatever it is, 15 or 18 inches on center, I can't remember what these ones are. Basically I took essentially you could consider it a furring strip, but it's really like a 2.5 by 3/4 inch piece of primed pine that I found at Menards, screwed it into the floor joists, and then I actually put these eye screws in here, or a half, I guess more of a hook, into that piece of wood. And I did that about 2/3 of the way down the length of most of these rods, which is about 5 feet or so. And on the other end, I put in bike hooks. Same stuff you'd hang bikes, tools, shovels, whatever. Did the exact same thing down here for the rod butt. So I've got a bigger hook to hold the heavier part of the rod. You know, anything that's got reels on it, it's gonna be heavier. And I got these smaller hooks to put down the rod blank. So again, that's where my big rods are. I'm gonna back out a little, zoom out here. That's how I store my big rods. They do actually fit really, really well right up underneath the garage door. You can see actually this one's just barely touching right there. Barely touching, but this is a pretty solid option. I have not had a garage door hit any of these rods. Obviously need to check your clearance to make sure that method is going to work for you. But for the limited space that I have in here, that works super, super well. So that is rod hanging method number 2. Alrighty, so for rod storage method number 3, we are gonna go to one that I've done actually for quite a long time as well. I've done this a couple of different ways, and I'll explain why here in just a minute. But my ceiling's kind of goofy in here. I have this weird drop down thing over here, back over here for the HVAC, because we have bedrooms and stuff right above the garage here. So my ceiling in here is kind of weird. It's not a consistent 8-foot tall ceiling. It does have a weird drop down, which kind of screws up my ability to store things. So I have kind of this weird little nook here, if you will, that is an 8-foot ceiling, and it's just big enough that I was able to actually store some rods in here. So I apologize, I've got some really bright LED lights right here. My lighting in here sucks, so bear with me, but this is rod storage version number 3. So basically, and I'm sure some of you probably do something similar to this, you just have a piece that runs across and it's suspended by a couple of big screws. That's it. So we're gonna get real close to this thing here. You can actually see there's holes in it, and it's actually a piece of C-channel. This is actually a piece of a shelving bracket that I found at Menards. You can see there's like a little hooky boy there. There was one on that side. I've actually got it covered up because the last time I installed this was in my apartment before we bought the house. And I used to climb into my boat from this side, and I bonked my head one too many times on that chunk of metal right there, and it sucked. So basically it is a shelving bracket. I wanna say it's probably about a 5 foot, maybe 6 foot wide. I think we're going closer to 6 foot on that. You know, piece of steel, channel steel. I have one on this end, one on the other end where the rod butts go. And to hold this up, I basically got these big ass screws. I do not have a background in construction, so I could not tell you exactly what this screw is, but I will try to have this linked in the description below, or at least one similar to it, so you know what I'm talking about here. But it's basically like a really long but kind of skinny lag screw with a Torx head in it, and a piece of, I think it's 1-inch PVC pipe that I basically use as a spacer. So that PVC pipe I kind of just shoved down into the C-channel. The other end of it pushes up against the drywall. There is a floor joist running through here, so that is what this is screwed into. Make sure you are in some kind of a solid piece of wood. Do not screw this into drywall. It will come crashing down. Now, the reason I use metal is it looks good. That gray kind of goes with what I got going on in here. A lot of whites, and got the concrete painted gray. So it kind of matches what we got going on, but I did originally make this out of wood at our apartment, and it worked for about a year. The problem with wood, wood likes to warp, wood likes to crack, and you put this much weight on it, especially if it's not evenly spaced. Like you can see here, I've got a bunch of extra rods hanging over here, no reels. These have a bunch of reels, and a few rods over here that don't have reels. So not very well distributed weight. When you do that with wood, things like to fall down. And that's not fun, especially when they fall right into your boat. Not fun. So that's why I went with metal components, this metal C-channel piece of shelving bracket here. This thing will not fall, it will not fail. You could just about hang from it. I'm not going to, but you just about could. And I've got all kinds of different rods on here. I've got trolling rods, musky rods, jigging rods, casting rods, bottom bouncing rods, all kinds of stuff. Stuff that maybe I don't use all the time. I got my slip bobber rods up here. There's some bottom bouncers, all kinds of stuff up here. So, that's kind of I just need it out of my way, out of sight, out of mind rod storage. It works great, especially if you're able to back your boat in. So currently, the Ranger does not fit in this garage, and there's really no way to make this garage bigger to fit the boat in here, which sucks. But my old boat, my Tuffy, I could just back right in, and bam, I got rods. Right here, I can just grab rods, and I had my shelving set up nice and tall so I could be in the boat, grabbing boxes, switching stuff out. So it worked out really well for that. So if that's your situation where you back your boat in and maybe you're looking for more rod storage, above the boat's not a bad place. So obviously be mindful of your garage doors. This works out really well for me. I've got my storage under my garage door, or above my garage doors, I guess. I got my storage here, and the stuff that I use on a regular basis that isn't just left in the boat, I have up against the wall, so it's easier to get. So anyway, hopefully this at least inspired some of you to look for different options to store fishing rods. It's a pain in the butt, but the upside is when you have more storage space, now you have more space for more rods. Now you can go buy more rods. You're welcome. So hopefully you guys at least found this sort of useful. If you have any questions about any of these methods or some comments, maybe you guys have other suggestions for how you like to store rods, share them with everybody. Drop them down in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. I'm sure everybody watching this video would like to hear too. And if I earned your guys' support, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button. It'll never cost you anything. And drop some more suggestions for these shop talk videos in the description below. I have a whole bunch of them lined up, ready to roll, but keep them coming. It's a lot of fun. I love these suggestions, guys. So with that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We will see you next week on the next episode of Shop Talk.